So as you might have realized, we're talking this morning about the power of our thoughts. Power of our thoughts specifically to create our reality. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the power of our thoughts. We'll consider the law of mind action, Unity's a foundational teaching of the law of mind action, also known as the law of attraction. Sort of look at how that's been used and misused, how it works and how it doesn't work. And then consider the quality of our own thoughts in creating our experience. So looking at maybe areas of our life where we're not experiencing to our best, and look at some of our thoughts and feelings around that. And then consider, this is where it gets like, how we can align our thoughts with divine mind. So I called this talk originally, whose mind is it anyway? Oh, you guys are good, okay. Because we are connected with divine mind. If we think of God as divine mind, as the source of all intelligence, we, as creations, as expressions of that, we connect with that. All right, everybody okay? Okay, it's got a departure there. Okay, so here's what we want to do. I thought of this. I'm going to tell you about this, and then I'm going to do something else. I could have you all right now just close your eyes, and I'm going to talk you through it. I'm not going to do it because I think it's not how I want to start out. And think of something that's happened in your recent past that has really frightened you, really scared you, like snake in the grass, or threat of losing your job, or you lost sight of your child in a crowd, or you think of something that just really frightened you. Here we go. What? Okay. My point is, if we took some time in that experience, you could actually, and some of you may have already sort of had a physiological remembrance of if you saw a snake in the grass or lost your child in a crowd. The power of your thought would actually maybe increase your breathing, a little feeling of anxiety there. Instead, so we know that our thoughts can actually impact our physiological state. This morning, for example, I thought this would be a funner example. Okay, you've pretty much had the same show. You've heard the same announcements. Polly, do not come back up here. Where is she? I was going to just let her do the whole Sunday talk. You've heard the same announcements. You've heard the same songs. I led the prayer. You were invited to sing a little bit and greet your neighbor. And nonetheless, we have experiences ranging all over the place in here. Some of you are quite irritated that you were asked to sing that much. Some of you loved it, thought it was kind of fun. Some of you are still contemplating what happened last night and how that went so awry. Some of you are noticing that David's not here and are a little disappointed, wish you stayed in bed. Some of you are thrilled you're here. For various reasons. You've seen some of the people that you like. So if we started talking about it, you would all be having a variety of experiences, yes? And really realizing that you can't focus on everything all at once and certain things draw your attention, but in general, it's been the same experience. So where you focus and what you think about it, and then how you feel about it affects your experience, yes? Okay. Now don't tell me if it's bad. If your experience is going south, change your thoughts. Okay, so that's my little experiment on just getting us warmed up about this idea that our thoughts create our experience. That our thoughts are powerful. Now, our thoughts creating our experience, I want to say two things about that. When I say thoughts, I also mean our feelings. Unity language from the Fillmores was kind of before they recognized the importance of our feeling nature and our emotions. So our thoughts and our feelings create our experience. We know that thoughts imbued with emotion are very powerful. And we have, it's interesting, some of us think we have feelings first and some of us think we have thoughts first. But they happen so quickly. We can have a thought that immediately elicits an emotion, and it feels like the emotion came first. Sometimes also, though, in terms of intuition, we might have feelings first, start to feel some things, and then we have some thoughts about that and process that. So I'm talking about thoughts and feelings, and the other thing is I'm not saying, hear me clearly, I'm not saying our thoughts and feelings create our circumstances. So there's no self-infliction of how did I think myself into this family that's been so destructive? How did I think myself to be sick? Right? We're talking about our experiences of our circumstances. And we also know, as truth students, I can certainly say that there have been things that I very much participated in that landed me in a certain circumstance through my thoughts, my feelings, my choices, what I did, what I didn't do. So that can certainly happen. But in general, we're talking about how do we react to, through our thoughts and feelings, what life is giving us. And we do recognize that we have a creative power in life to actually create something in the outer world if we focus the power of our thoughts and our feelings to that degree. So are we clear about that? Thoughts and feelings I'm talking about, and I'm not saying we've thought our circumstance. To share, no, I won't, okay. Yeah, I will, okay. Many of you know I've lost both of my parents fairly young. My dad died when I was 27, my mom when I was 41. I'm an only child. And I had a moment of thinking, how did I get to have this experience? What is going on for me that I got to have that experience? And that was not very helpful. What was helpful is how am I going to respond to this? Like, two people happen to be my parents and for various reasons died young. What am I going to make that mean about me? So there's some power in recognizing that certain things happen, and how are we going to react to those? Okay, now the law of mind action. The law of mind action simply states that predominant, persistent thoughts, feelings, and beliefs tend to produce after their kind. So clearly stated, we say that thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. They tend to. So now this is a consistent thought. I thought this morning, I'm hungry. I didn't start having just constant thoughts of eggs and start attracting eggs to me. Oh my God, I see eggs everywhere. We have those thoughts that really aren't creative or formative. They come and they go. But the thoughts that we persistently hold on to tend to duplicate. They tend to make more of their same. And they have the same effect. The effect then grows. The law of attraction that was brought forth predominantly by The Secret, has it been about 20 years now? Goodness sakes, things are going crazy. I appreciated the Secret because it sort of got these teachings that we've been studying for years out into mainstream, but I think it simplified it a little bit too much and actually sort of got the order backwards. It made it seem as though, and I also feel like it really held its weight in materialism. So it was a lot about, if you want to be rich, you just start really thinking about how you want to be rich. You really focus your mind and your energy around money, or you want a new sports car, you focus everything around the new sports car, as if you do that, a sports car is going to land in your driveway. And the opposite is actually true. People say, I've been thinking about a sports car, I want a new sports car, and I see red sports cars everywhere. They're coming to me. They are attracted to me. In this law, it's actually the opposite, right? You have become attuned and focused on a red sports car, and don't you know, you start to see them. They've been there. They've been driving around, and you didn't care. But when you finally decided, I'm going to make my whole thought pattern focus on that, you start picking up on them. So they didn't come to us, we're finding them. The other thing about that is the materialism is secondary, right? The material wealth that would come from our aligning ourselves with our thoughts, with our higher truth, is secondary. So when we are attuning our thoughts with thoughts of truth, with thoughts of the truth of our being, with God thoughts, things do start to happen. We might get more clients. We might make more money. We might even decide to get a red sports car, but that's secondary, and that can come and go. And our sense of well-being and wholeness and truth doesn't change, right? Okay, so not to totally bash The Secret, but I just felt like I wanted to make those distinctions. It did get a little bit of a bad rap around making it seem a little simple and a little overly materialistic. So similarly, it's important to remind ourselves that just as red cars don't find us when we start thinking about them, bad things don't necessarily find us when we're having a bout of negativity. They don't find us. We might start to look for them. Have you ever had that? You don't even realize it happens. This is how it shows up for me. This is just kind of a real simple example. I don't know how often, but every so often I have a morning where I'm late. I know. Okay, it happens about every week. And so there's a little bit of pressure on to get going, and inevitably something like I can't find my keys or my phone sets me into a little bit of a tizzy. And so I'm a little bit worked up. My feelings are a little agitated. I'm a little agitated, and I'm rushing, and then inevitably I either go out to my car, I drop my bag, or I drop my keys, getting in the door with my bag. And there have been times that I have thought, is this how it's going to go? Oh, is this how it's going to go? And by goodness, it will. Right? I will just continue to sort of be frustrated and have this experience of nothing's going my way. And if I can, which is really the sweet thing about working here. I mean, we don't really sit and meditate all day, trust me. But we do have daily prayer, and that's a time where I can redirect and reconnect and let those thoughts of frustration and this is how it's going to go and this is going to be a frustrating, terrible day, let that go. Something happened this morning that was frustrating, and I'm going to continue to dwell on it and have thoughts that continue to build on that, and I'm going to have more of that experience. So that's a simple example, and perhaps you can think in your own life, particularly about experiences that you have that continue to be similar and not up to par. By up to par, I mean for you, for your life experience to be the fullest that it can be. Are there places in relationships or experiences where it's challenging? Now, again, we're not responsible for the challenging people. We're not responsible that we're working with challenging people or living with challenging people, but we're responsible for what we think about that and what we make that mean about our circumstances and our worth and our capacity. And so are there places in our life where our thoughts are limiting us in experiencing the fullness of life? Does that make sense? So what is, all right, great. What does this have to do with God? What does this have to do with a spiritual teaching? Anybody? Wow. Hello? What are you thinking about? I know, we ask in jest, but I meant it. Where does spirit play into the power of our thoughts? Faith? Guidance? Love? So it brings these things into our awareness. Faith is really having thoughts about and believing in things that we haven't even necessarily seen, but continuing to believe and have our thoughts aligned with those, yeah? Love, lots of love. Yes. So the idea is that, as I said earlier, we talk about, in Unity, we often talk about God as divine mind, the source of all intelligence, all energy. And when we talk about the power of our mind, it's a reflection of that process. So God thought, Ideated is what we like to say. We are an idea in the mind of God, each one of us, expressing right here, right now, in the physical realm. And we have that same power to create, to have everything that we see right now was once an idea, right? So anything is possible if we think about it that way, looking at the strength of our ideas, our thoughts, aligning our thoughts and feelings around what we want to create in our life experience. So the power of recognizing that we have that same capacity in the power of our mind to not only create in the physical realm, but also to connect with that source and to receive divine inspiration, divine ideas when we're connected through prayer and meditation. To open ourselves up to, I know I see this, I know I'm experiencing in this realm right here, but there is more. And that is guiding the whole universe. How can I connect with that? How can I connect my thoughts and my feelings behind that? So basically, it's connecting our thoughts, our feelings around truth. Not what's happening out here that can change momentarily, right? But what is it that's true in me and true in all of us that we can constantly connect with and have that lead our thoughts? Even when things get challenging, even when I drop the keys, even when I'm so agitated, I can say, this is not the truth of me, right? This is a challenging situation. I know you have other challenging situations that are much more challenging than my problem with dropping the keys and getting up late. But when we have those challenging situations, we can watch how we're thinking. Are we putting our thoughts and our emotional state in alignment with fear and judgment and anger and lack of worthiness, or are we reminding ourselves of the power that we are, the power to connect with love and truth and harmony, and then going out and living from that, even when the bad stuff's happening, and noticing, try this out, when the good stuff happens. It's not really about manifesting a parking space. It tends to come down to that. I've been thinking such good thoughts, and I'll tell you what, every time I go in a parking lot, I get the best spot. Maybe you're vibrating at that level of parking spaces, but there's a lot more. And that's great, and that's fine. I'm not belittling that. That's great when that happens. But imagine what could really be happening in and through us. Now, here's the other thing about our thoughts create our experience. We have to be aware of this thing called, it used to be called race consciousness, then they called it collective consciousness, and now they're calling it mass consciousness. So there's a consciousness that we all have stepped into that was created by all the human beings that have lived before us and their consciousness. And so we are, I don't want to say we're subject to, but there's truth and error in that consciousness. And so when we talk, people talk a lot about a consciousness of illness, that there's been a focus on the illness and the pharmaceuticals and so that has come into our mass consciousness. And so we're affected by that. And so we want to be aware of that. How do we don't flip out about it. We don't add more energy and let that start multiplying, but we're aware of it. And the same thing, the same treatment is what helps us. We continue to align with truth. And here's the cool thing, when we do that, more and more and more, we affect the mass consciousness. And we've experienced that. We've felt in these last 10, 20 years, people have felt like there's a shift going on. Something's happening. People are recognizing this higher level of truth and of being and of source. So we are contributing to that. So if you don't do it for your sake, do it for the masses.